Let me go through this right here. Ms. Roberts is out today, so I'll try to not crash this ship. So we'll see. This is a public hearing, and we are the Putnam County Planning Commission. We are a designated local planning agency for the county as prescribed Chapter 163 of Florida statutes, and we function under the authority of Article 11 and 12 of the Putnam County Land Development Code. The primary responsibility of the commission is to serve as an advisory board to hear and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on matters related to provisions of and proposed amendments to the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan and Putnam Land Development Code. The members of this board will review each application and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners at their next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Procedurally, we will call each case number, name and number. A member of the staff will briefly explain to us the nature of each request. We will then take comments from the applicant or their representative, followed by the public comments concerning the request. Please direct all comments or statements to the board and not other people in the audience. Before speaking, we will ask each person to be recognized, come forward to the lectern and identify his or herself by name and address. After all persons wishing to speak have been heard, we will entertain a motion from the board. The motion will be voted on by the board members and become recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will make the final determination regarding the application. All applicants have the right to withdraw their request at any time during the application process. I don't believe we've had any withdrawals. If applicants choose to have their case heard at a later date, the case will be re-advertised in accordance with Putnam County Land Development Code. All right, let's see. So we've got a couple items on the agenda. I'm going to rearrange this thing a little bit where we're going to go ahead and get to the case REZ 25000020. We're going to do that first, and then we'll handle the election stuff after that item.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, Michael Graves, Planning and Development Services. This is case REZ 25000020. Albert Miles Jr., through his agent, Veronica Miles, is requesting a zoning map amendment from Commercial Retail C2 to Commercial General C3 on a 0.57 acre parcel located at 147 Phillips Dairy Road in Palatka to allow the development of outdoor storage. Surrounding zonings include intensive and retail commercial, C4 and C2. The subject site has a future land use designation of commercial. The property has approximately 320 feet of access from Phillips Dairy Road, and according to the National Wetlands Layer and the FEMA Flood Zone Layer on the GIS reference map, the lands do not appear to contain wetlands and is located in FEMA Flood Zone X, not a special flood hazard area. Should the applicant's request be approved, the applicant will then be subject to a second review by the Development Review Committee, DRC, before obtaining any permits for the development of the property compatible with the C3 zoning district. Here you can see an aerial view of the property. Here you can see the future land use, the zoning. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map from Commercial Retail C2 to Commercial General C3. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the adopted comprehensive plan and meets the locational requirements of the Commercial General C3 zoning district provided in the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. Are there any questions?
Do we have a zoomed out map of that where we can see maybe there's some additional C3 zoning that's along that Phillips Dairy?
The additional C3 zoning has not yet taken into effect on our GIS map. It was approved by the Board of County Commissioners last year, and it would be the property on most furthest on the left of this map.
Okay, I knew there was a couple changes we had there.
Yes, sir.
You're saying it's not showing up on the?
It hasn't been updated in the GIS map at the time that these maps were made.
Okay.
Now, is the church there still active? I thought I saw a church right next, or very close to it. A little
I am
small church.
unfamiliar if there's a church active there or not.
Okay.
There is a small church next. I don't know if it's active or not, but yeah, I made a site visit today and that church is still there.
Michael, I do have a few questions for you under the staff analysis. It talks about on the two sides of the property, north side and west side, a 10-8 buffer shall be required and enforced by DRC. This could be a 6-foot tall privacy fence or wall or 6-foot tall shrubs. So that's west side, north side.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Now, going on down, it says, as heavy equipment storage is considered open storage, a Class C buffer shall be required in accordance with the LDC. Shall be comprised of fence or wall, but 8 feet tall, and it looks like the spacing is more lenient. Where does that fall into this category? Which side?
So that would be on the northeastern side where it faces the residential development across the street,
Okay.
as we mostly care that it isn't going to be seen from the residences.
Nothing along Reed Street.
Technically speaking, they are allowed to have one. It's not a requirement for the most part, aside from the vehicle use area buffering, which is a even less intensive buffering requirement.
Okay. And primary access to the project site is off of Phillips Dairy?
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we have, is the applicant or applicant's representative here? You guys wish to speak? Nope, all good, just seeing how it goes, all right, fair enough. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? No? Packed house, all right. I guess that we close, public comment and bring it back to the board for, discussion.
We've had a lot of change in that area over the last couple of months.
Yep. No, I think it's great. I think since it's all happening right there together, it's, I like seeing that development be kind of consolidated into that area instead of trying to get a bunch of requests in here for being expanded all over the place.
Chairman, I move we recommend approval of the rezone REZ 25-000020 as it is consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan.
Got a motion? Motion and a second. Call for question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Motion carries. Good luck with it, guys. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Enjoy. How's that? We didn't need you. Just wait in the car. She come here like she wants to talk. Yeah. All right.
Oops.
All right, that was the easy one. Let's see. The next, we don't have any other cases, so the next item will be election of officials. Apparently, our rules require that on the first meeting of the year, we reestablish board positions. So, Ms. Roberts not here. We got a couple members absent. So the way it
Well,
works-
I think we should elect the ones absent, president, and vice president. Or chairman and vice chair. You know?
That's certainly, well, so according to the rules, what I was informed before this was anybody that's not here, those elections would not be sufficient until they have officially accepted the position, so. That's correct. We can vote for those of us that are here, or if the board chooses to move that to another meeting to wait for more attendees, that's a possible avenue too, but at this point, what is the board's pleasure?
Well, I guess, does it complicate life if we were to slip it a month? That's the first question. And the second question would be, is it gonna change the outcome of who was seeking election as the chairman, vice chairman?
That's a good question.
I
I don't know that the procedural portion of it is difficult. I think it's just whoever we decide to appoint, then if they're present, then we act upon it, and if they're not present, then we have to wait till the next meeting for the acceptance. Whereas if we move with people that are in attendance, then we can go ahead and clear up the day, so.
Well, I'm hypothetically, do we have a thought of who might wanna do that? I mean, is the current chairman, up for reelection if she so chose? I don't know the answer.
I'm not sure about that.
Sitting chair, may I?
You may.
Okay. So we do have, our chair, elect is not present today. And typically, the way that it works is, and Mike, help me out if I'm incorrect, but Mike essentially says, is there anybody that doesn't want to do it? And then he calls for those appointments, and then there's a request for those appointees to accept or deny that appointment, and then there's a call for a vote. In the interest of history, I think we all are aware that Madam Roberts has sat as chair for quite some time. Madam Roberts has expressed a desire to remain chair if the Planning Commission decides to have their vote today. In the event that you all agree that she should remain chair, it wouldn't be effective until she confirmed that appointment and it acknowledged your vote. So there's, I guess, a couple ways that it could be addressed. You guys could decide, collectively to wait until Madam Roberts can be in attendance, or you can go on about the business and determine who may be the best appointee. And if it is Ms. Roberts, then the vote would be contingent upon her acceptance, and whomever the vice chair was, it'd be a similar situation unless, of course, it was one of you all. You would be the chair until Ms. Roberts were to return. So it's kind of convoluted. Our code requires that the commission elect officials or officers today because it is the first meeting of this year. So staff left it on the agenda for this commission to discuss and ultimately decide.
Mr. Chair,
My fault. Get it over with. First of all, I don't want anything other than I'll be sitting here. I've got a lot of things planned this year and I won't be here a lot. So, but with that said, if anyone else does anyone want to be the chair? Who would want to be the chair? I nominate the current chairperson, Madam Roberts, to be the chairman for the next year. I'll second.
I think now we kick
So-
into, is that the consensus
Well,
of the whole commission?
quick question, because I'm new to this. Who's our vice chair?
Justin.
Okay,
Jason.
thank you.
We're gonna get around to that in just a moment.
That's why I'm here tonight. Yeah, it hasn't mattered until tonight.
Gentlemen, I think that Zach was about to ask is Ms. Roberts' nomination a consensus of the board?
I think we're still in this discussion stage of that, but, I mean,
I'm good with it.
Well, is there any other nominations? Well, hearing no other nominations, the only nominee we have is Ms. Roberts, and I'm sure Ms. Roberts is watching today, so we'll wish her a speedy recovery. But we'll close the nominations. We have one. Chairman, you can go ahead and take a vote, though, just for the record, if you
Okay.
like.
all right, we've got a motion and a second to have Ms. Roberts be the continuing chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously.
Good.
So it'll be-
There's your chairman, Ms. Roberts, and now we must elect our vice chair.
That's right.
And the floor is open for nominations for our vice chair.
Justin, are you willing to take it again?
Yeah, I'll keep
No,
going.
I think
Justin's-
Justin, I think he ought to do it. He's doing a fine job today.
He stepped up to the plate.
A fine job, you mean
Yeah.
you don't have to sit here and do all this talking?
That comes with a pay raise this time.
Right. You got double my
Do we have a nomination?
I'll nominate Justin.
All right.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. And we can take a vote for the record here.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I be opposed? No, I'm just kidding.
That's
I'll
right.
say aye as well.
All right. Well, in that case, we have our chair and vice chair. Thank you.
Easy enough. All right, that gets us out of that. Any more additional, let's see, old business? Do we have any old business?
Mr. Chair, I do have something I'd like to bring up from the last meeting. So there was some discussion, and it says new business regarding a request for a workshop. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I believe this went out to all the planning commission. That was denied, the workshop was denied because when I brought the talking points in and kind of an idea to start the workshop, it was denied by staff to have the workshop because I didn't prepare it in the proper format for a amendment. I believe I made it very clear that that was just me trying to take a whack at basically coming into compliance with the changes in state statute. Because my understanding is we are on a time clock, and if we don't, as a county, comply with that within that time, there's some possibilities for some legal action that could basically freeze, and that would come from the state, specific penalties under state SB 170, referred to the big stick, including formal letters citing a specific statute and the $50,000 fee, which is a penalty. So, all that being said, my intention was never to bring a full-throated, fully vetted text amendment to that workshop. My intent was to have a workshop so that our subject matter experts could inform us and the commission in the view of everyone here in the county, all of our neighbors and constituents, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and start this conversation, because time is clicking, because that was all put in to state statutes October 1st. Well, it was actually in July, I think, but they gave you till October. I felt strong enough that I put quite a bit of effort into that to start that. I just want that cleared up for the record, that I was not proposing the final draft. It was talking points. And then under our planning commission, the part that I'm struggling with, again, it's all about process. Section 45-923, basically the planning commission shall meet each month, conduct public hearings on requested actions or other matters as may be brought before the commission. Meetings, including workshops, may be held at the call of the chair or the board of county commissioners. Our chair did request that, so I'm kind of struggling with how we found that, how we got to that nuance to not schedule that workshop. So it's twofold. I'd like to clear up, I was not proposing a fully vetted amendment to the land development code, but at the same time, our chair did request a workshop.
Right, so you're saying we need a workshop with a topic, not so much a specific amendment. Zach, you guys have, what was the official?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when the workshop was requested at the last meeting, I did approach my direct report and then had some discussions with the county attorney and the deputy county administrator. And at the time, I was under the impression that the goal of the workshop was to establish new language. So I might have been misguided in what the goal of the workshop was. And I recall that the primary focus being that to address the requirements of Senate Bill 1080, which established a whole new parameters of timelines for administrative approvals, and if we, you know, have everything we need, we have to approve, and if we don't, we have to, you know, approve with conditions or deny. And reviewing of the legislation that was proposed with Senate Bill 1080, which would amend Chapter 122 of the Florida statutes, it didn't indicate that a ordinance or resolution was required to adopt. It just said the county must provide and make producible a sheet that says, you know, if you're doing this application, it's this timeline and this cost and so on and so forth. So we did have staff prepare that, and we do have it as a producible document that we can share in the event that someone comes and requests that information from us. But I was more or less told, well, if we don't have a document that has our current language and our proposed language, then the workshop was seen as a workshop just for, well, this is what, you know, this is what the language could be, but it wasn't our existing code. And then there was the concern about, do we bring the commissioners, the BOCC and Planning Commission together and do the big joint workshop, and so on and so forth. Long story short, it was me that requested that we hold off on the workshop, or advised that we were holding off on the workshop until we had specific language in hand. And that was after discussion with the county attorney and my direct report.
Okay. So it sounds like the topics that we wanted to discuss were not necessarily need a resolution or anything. You guys are kind of handling. Is there anything? Have you guys put together any sort of document or report or after review of the things that were required in that new bill to say these were our existing requirements, these are the ones that the bill requires us to do now, here's the discrepancies we had, and here's how? Do we have anything like, I think that's really where we're going with this, right? This is kind of what you're looking for, is where we were before and where we're going. It sounds like you guys have put together where we're going. Is there something to show the difference between where we were previously and where you're, like, I guess it would be the procedures that you guys use to review that to make sure that we're in compliance. Do we have that in some sort of documented format?
I don't know if the document has what we were and what we are. What we did was we just put together a sheet that provides, you know, project type and timeline to be expected, and we ensured that we abided by the timelines required by legislation, and we're actually pretty well quicker on all of those application types than what the minimums are for the state legislation. So we have something, but I don't think it includes what our previous timelines and the current timeline.
Have we contrasted those around existing land development code to make sure that we don't have any discrepancy, and we don't have any things that contradict each other? Like land development code saying you've got 20 days, but then you guys have produce something that the state bill says you have to have 10.
Mr. Chair, we keep glossing over this as the timeline for approval.
Right.
It changed definitions, requirements, platting. There's a lot more to this than the timelines for approval. And what I'm trying to get away from is these unknown policies, because state statute requires that it lays out everything that is required. Well, so I'll ask staff right now, what's the current definition of a subdivision? And then I'm going to get into private subdivisions, and then I'm going to get into a couple other things. And I'm going to show that we do not comply with state statute right now. So under our code, what is an exempt? We'll start with that one. What is an exempt subdivision?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty certain that the exempt subdivision was, the definition for that was removed and it's now a boundary line adjustment. But formerly, that exempt subdivision process was what we used to move a boundary line between two or more adjoining parcel.
And code reflects that?
Yes, sir, and with the addition that it would not create any new parcels. So you start with 2, you end with 2, you start with 4, you end with 4.
Okay. Private subdivision, you said no longer requires review. In the last meeting, you stated that you talked to our attorney, and if it's a private subdivision, that it's not gonna be reviewed.
Well, we don't have any definition for a private subdivision, but we do have your administrative subdivisions, which would be types 2, 3, and 4. And then we have our plat subdivision, which would be a type 1.
Okay, so I'm bringing this up because state statute clearly defines it no other way, because I work for a municipality and we had to change, we had different levels of subdivisions as 3 or more lots, period. It also says, as the local planning agency, which this board is, all subdivisions come before it.
So I think with ours, we have a subdivision is defined as the creation of 2 or more lots, and then we separate lot split as just that. If you're taking one parcel and cutting it in half to create 2 new parcels, that would go through the lot split process, which is an administrative
Agreed.
subdivision. And then we have the type 2 subdivision is large lot, and I think it's limited to 6, the creation of 6 parcels. Type 3 and type 4 are limited to the creation of up to 10 parcels.
But again, does that comply? Because again, all we talk about is the timelines. Just that piece, because I can go on with a bunch of other stuff. Does that comply with state statute and the definitions? Are we viewing it the same?
Can you clarify your question, please?
So state statute says 3 or more, period.
Okay.
There is no different layers anymore. What's the review differences in your type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4?
So the type 1 would go through it, assuming that the zoning and future land use allow for the division in terms of density and lot size. The type 1s are reviewed by the Development Review Committee after the application is received. And then if everything is good and approved by the DRC, a preliminary development order is issued, and then a final plat is received and reviewed by our county surveyor, property appraiser, Public Works Department, Florida Department of Health, if it's outside of our utility area, and then our zoning department.
So that takes me to another thing. It's done administratively, correct? Basically, on
Yes,
that
sir.
one. When that code was changed at the commission 4 or 5 months ago to comply, the ultimate signer, because it used to be our chair at one point, then in one of the commission meetings, it was kind of run through, now it's the state, or the county administrator or designee. That's not codified anywhere.
It was adopted through a resolution.
So we took one piece, moved to comply with Senate Bill 1080. We took one piece, the ultimate signer, put it over here. But we didn't do the rest. I agree, the end is the same, but the process and all the stuff that's required and all the code change has not been addressed.
Well,
And by the way, a code amendment has to come through this board.
So 2 things. The resolution to determine the land development review coordinator was to address Senate Bill 784, which amended Chapter 177 Florida statutes, which is what regulates subdivisions and plats and vacations of plats.
Right.
Senate Bill 1080 amended Chapter 122 of the Florida statutes, which is the legislation that establishes that the Planning and Development Services Department, whatever it is colloquially called throughout the state, has like 30 days to review a variance and grant an answer, or 30 days to review a lot split, or some other administrative application that's not inclusive of plats.
Okay, okay. So we've got Senate Bill 177, we've got Senate Bill 1080. They both changed a lot of things. Okay, we're arguing semantics here, and okay, and I think there's two more bills that ought to be contemplated when we're talking about this. Do we comply with all the changes that went down in October? And what is the timeline before somebody's gonna have to answer for it? Because at a certain timeline, as I said, I can file what is called a notice of statutory inconsistency and conflict, and this county's in a crack. And they're not, folks, I'm not gonna die on this hill. I put a lot of time into it. I've got a full-time job and a lot of other stuff, and I'm here trying to look out for Putnam County and look out for everyone involved and be transparent to our neighbors so that everybody understands. And I'm just asking how we're picking and choosing and not making code change, we're making policy change. And if it's policy change and we didn't know about it, how are the other folks supposed to know about it? How is everybody else supposed to know about it? It's a hidden policy somewhere. And with that, I rest.
Would it be beneficial, because to be honest with you, I don't want to say I got lost a little bit in there, but I'm not as knowledgeable. Would it be beneficial perhaps at the next meeting to have a separate topic or discussion about all the stuff that the gentleman to my right brought up?
It sounds like specifics, it sounds like we need specifics, because I feel like it's kind of, there's a bunch of stuff to unpack there. I feel like these guys deal with the problems as they arise. It may be to the position where, Matt, you need to outline which specific ones you're wanting them to address, and then they can have a response of how they.
I attempted that, sir. No disrespect, but I attempted that. I think we're completely glossing over the whole platting, the whole subdivision process, the whole review process, the whole mandate of the statute that says you shall do this.
Well,
I mean,
if
all other municipalities have already scrambled, that I'm familiar with, have already scrambled to come into compliance. But as we heard at the last meeting, when staff admitted we don't really have a subdivision code, we have a broken arm, and because we don't have a code, it's a cast. That was stated right there at the podium. And I feel like we're banking on the fact that no one understands the process enough that we can't really get caught. But state statute says you will lay out the process. You will publish it. You will change your land development code. You will do this. And either we can do it forward thinking and make the subdivision and the platting and all that work to something we want in the best interest of Putnam County, or it's coming, and we will have no choice. So I'm not the subject matter expert, but I'm around it enough to know that a lot of other municipalities took this very seriously and went through their full land development code and their comprehensive plans and are scrambling to be in compliance. So.
Well, at this point, I think it's where you show where where we're not in compliance, the specifics of it, and then address it from each one of those line items. Like, I don't know, it feels like Putnam County's got a way of doing things. There's some verbiage in the bills that say we're supposed to go one direction, and until we find where the discrepancies are between the two, and can put your finger, I mean, you can't solve a problem until you clearly define the problem, so at this point, I think as the problem arises, we should address it through not just policy, but through
Yeah,
code.
and I thought that the workshop would be the best way to do it, because then we could explain and talk through each instance. Because if I'm gonna sit here today, I'm gonna say, our plating doesn't meet the requirements, the plating, the DRC doing parts of it doesn't meet it. We addressed one little piece of how a plat gets approved, but not the body of it. I'm not sure that we're, the subdivision and how it's reviewed is in compliance. It's just on and on, it's a laundry list, and like I say, I've tried to do my level best, and at this point, we'll let it go where it goes.
Mr. Chair, I got a question for Zach and maybe even Mr. Perry. The stuff that Matt's laying out, obviously, there's some disconnect between what you're saying or what you're doing and what Matt is saying. And to me, I have enough concern now, based on what Matt is laying out, that where we should be, we're not. And I would ask, why aren't we? Matt, if it feels like Matt's trying to be proactive, you guys may be in the position to where you're always having to be, reactive to a problem. I like the proactive stance as much as we can go. So, Mr. Perry, maybe this one's for you. Is there a disconnect between what we have in place compared to what Matt says we should be? And if there is, what can we do? Is it gonna take a workshop, or is it gonna take staff to be given a directive to get it put to a point to where it does then get codified to where we are where we need to be?
Well, let me just simply say this, sir. I appreciate the question. However, it's a little bit out of my expertise, quite frankly. I think that what Zach is, and Zach's right here, he speaks for himself, but what he's tried to say is that there are things that have been undertaken by staff to try and correct this perceived problem or real problem, but he has something I guess he can show you. Now, as far as me telling you how everything fits together, I'm not the man. That's not my job. I mean, I hate to say you that. I mean, I would certainly look into it, try to become more up to date with this, but quite frankly, it's not something anybody has asked me to do, so I don't know.
And I mean, Mr. Sheffield, if I may too, y'all's request did not fall on deaf ears. I mean, I relayed the information, and in part was had a conversation with the county attorney, and out of an abundance of caution to not find ourselves in hot water with Senate Bill 180, which was passed as, hurricane reconstruction relief, that legislation also made it to where any person inside or outside this county could challenge any legislation adopted which made redevelopment or new development any more difficult than it previously was. And so out of an abundance of caution, anytime I've had a conversation with our attorney about, hey, this was brought to the attention, we see the relevance, we see the importance, we see the value, we want to proceed, it was, well, what exactly are we changing from previous to, what's proposed or what would be current? And is this going to get us in a predicament where Senate Bill 180 could overpower and then the county be liable for making development or redevelopment more difficult? And that's where I'm at. And every time I've had the conversation, it's, well, let's see what the language is proposed to be, and then, but we really want to be careful and not open up a text amendment to the comp plan or the land development code, because if anyone feels that our changed legislation is more restrictive than previously, then we may find ourselves in a suit. And it's all ifs and mays and coulds and stuff like that, right? We just don't know until it happens.
But if I heard Matt correctly, I don't necessarily think we were becoming more stringent. We were just trying to become compliant.
Right, but if some of our legislation, which may not be compliant with statute now, is also considered less restrictive than what's current of the recent legislative changes, then we would find ourselves between a rock and a very hard place.
You're saying becoming compliant becomes more stringent, so that puts us in violation of that portion of the statute?
Yes, sir. I mean, it all boils down to Senate Bill 180, which was adopted last legislative session and was effective July 1, 2025. And it has essentially an extension period of 3 years from the most recent natural disaster in which Putnam County was identified as a community of concern, which was the last hurricane of 2024 storm season, Milton. So until about October of 2027, if the legislation stays the same and if Putnam County is not declared under a natural emergency or what have you, the governor's emergency, if we change our text, then we would fall into Senate Bill 180 and could be liable for making somebody's development more difficult.
So two questions. One, isn't the state getting sued right now regarding Senate Bill 180
I don't.
and the limits that it's created on the municipalities and the counties and the other jurisdictions?
I know that this year's legislative session, there was a lot of effort to correct Senate Bill 180. I don't know if the state's being sued, but I know that there are a lot of counties and municipalities across the state that are, actively trying to fight back and revamp 180.
Yes, and I agree with that. In fact, in that handout, I know the font was small, I printed it fast. It kind of explained that, and even the author of Senate Bill 180, because it was a last-second amendment that put that in there, they're looking at, according to the lobbyist and what I've heard, of softening that up. But it's still, that's Senate Bill 180, where they say you can't change anything, make it more restrictive. That's still going to leave Senate Bill 177 about subdivisions and all the other. So what other municipalities, and this is my take, I'm not that smart of a guy, they've elected to go ahead and either codify to get in compliance with Senate Bill 177 and Senate Bill, I'm getting them all mixed up in my head now, in case Senate Bill 180 or 1080 does get changed. But the feeling is, either way, you've got two conflicting state statutes. How can you be wrong? But if Senate Bill 1080 does get changed, then why didn't you take the time and opportunity to fix your land development code and comp plan? And there is timelines on that. So I was trying to be proactive. If it didn't come off that way, I apologize. If staff has all this, but again, then I'm going to say that if staff's making policy and we didn't know about it, how can we sit here and do our job as a planning commission and make recommendations to the commission or whoever if we don't know this exists?
Zach, if we were to task staff with, provide us something that says we're in compliance, review and make sure we're in compliance with 177 and 1080. Who would that fall to? Who would that?
Well, we don't have a designated person on our staff that is only focusing on legislation. So, I mean, we don't have that. I know Ethan and Michael both have taken interest in the Senate tracker and the bill tracker and all that stuff, and they keep up with what's coming, and they bring stuff to my office, and let me know. And then from there, I take it to my report and have conversations with the attorney, and I mean, I'm only listening to my employers, right? And I can't very well circumvent, you know, the county attorney. I'm not an attorney. I can't argue with him in his interpretation of the law, and he's the one.
Well, I'll tell you this, I watch a lot of SVU and all Law and Order, and when two attorneys walk into a courtroom, one comes out wrong. I will also question why this is running through so much, because normally the county attorney is supposed to be performing legality. Legality meaning it complies with code. But all that being said, we asked for a workshop. Is it the county attorney's opinion that this workshop, so that people could understand this? Maybe everybody leaves that workshop saying Matt was barking up a tree. He's crazy as a loon. Why don't we have that opportunity to really dig in and proactively look at these codes and make sure that we're protecting the commission, the county as a whole, and we're being transparent with our neighbors, us. I am prepared. If we had a workshop and everybody left there, Matt's crazy, we want him off this board, I am prepared for that. But don't think I am.
I don't think it's crazy. I think there was a kind of a miscommunication between the board and Zach about, looking for a text amendment or actually change language, but I think it's just a little more broad than that. It's just a overview of what's going on and how we comply with those two Senate bills. Sounds like you could have a workshop about the discussion of those bills as they relate to our existing code and not be outside the purview of what we're allowed to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have a problem trying to move it forward again. With the last request, I'd gotten, you know, some documents that was kind of a writing about what Senate Bill 1080 and 180 were, and then we got some stuff that looked like a text amendment but wasn't our code. It was a different code. So it was, I didn't understand what our goal was. It looked like we were trying to amend code, and without the tools needed to amend the code, which was our code, and strike through underlined proposed revisions.
So I questioned that, and according to, let's find it here. AI is a great thing. So I went on the citizen portal. It's a website, it's AI, and I pulled up the meeting. I'm gonna try to find it right now. I made sure that it was very clear that it was just a request for a workshop, and that I was just offering that up as talking points. AI seemed to agree. I reviewed the actual video, never said, in fact, I said, this is I'm way over my skis, but these are just talking points. I borrowed these from other jurisdictions that have passed this successfully. I don't know how to do the whole find everything in the 400 and some odd pages of our land development code to make sure it's right. And then our Madam Chair then says, I believe that's a good place to start, and she asked for the workshop. So I'm not so sure that it was that ambiguous or that veiled or wasn't that well understood. And if it was,
How about
then
this?
we should have asked
How
those
about
questions.
moving forward, if we ask staff to prepare a report, and the topic of that report being, are we in compliance with Senate Bill 177 and 1080? And if so, where are our deficiencies? Is that something that staff is capable of? And I mean, even through conversation with the attorney, of being able to put together a report saying, we found some deficiencies in these sections of code that might not align. These don't really matter, but these we might need to address, or we're good, or we've talked to somebody at the state level that says we're fine. Like, is that a report that the staff could put together that kind of clarify? I mean, I think that gets to the point Matt's trying to make there is, it seems like the topic of conversation, all the things that he's pointing out are in these, are are in these two bills primarily, and the discrepancies between how we operate and the bills that have come out is really the topic of conversation here, so.
Is it a report that staff could prepare? Yes. Is it a report that we could prepare by the next planning commission meeting? I can't answer that. I mean, I got here today and I was running around doing all sorts of God knows what until 2:30 PM.
No, I understand that.
So what
Well,
about
along-
60 or 90 days? Three sessions, 60 days, 2 sessions.
Well, I feel like if they addressed it before the next meeting, even if it was incomplete, it at least would bring topics up that may need further clarification or would spur discussion, but, at the same point, if we're gonna have a workshop and staff doesn't have the time or manpower to consolidate, what are we workshopping for? You know what I mean? Like, there's no sense to leave staff unprepared at a workshop just because we wanna have a workshop. So we need to have a topic and a direction of where we're going for the research that staff needs to do. So if it takes 30 or 60 days for you guys to put together something to say, I mean, the time is gonna be what the time is gonna be regardless of whether we
But I would think,
have a workshop.
but I would think though, as a member of the commission, that we lean upon the staff to validate that whatever's presented is within the state code. I mean, that's an assumption on my part. And when I look at the staff analysis each time, I'm looking upon them as the subject matter expert in that particular thing. So I would think what you're asking, I think the staff would want to know that too. How do we comply with the changes that have taken place? Are we in compliance? If we're not in compliance, what do we need to do in order to fix that? And if we're having this dialogue and discussion, what do you think Billy Bob and Mary Beth is thinking out there who's trying to do a subdivision or trying to do something else?
You know, I think, I said at the last meeting, time is of the essence for this. I think it's important. Being able to compare and contrast what we have from a county perspective to what state law says, I think is imperative to us. But I also recognize sessions in right now, correct? It lasts for 60 days? Is it 60 days, 90
I think
days?
it's usually like April by the time they get done. Do you know?
So it goes back to where if some of these things are part of their discussion, would it be prudent just to kind of delay? And it may not be because time is of the essence, but it would be prudent to delay to see where they end at session, to see what they ratify or codify moving forward, to where we could be up on the most recent. But having something to compare and contrast to what we have and what they are stating right now is going to be important. Do we want to go through the effort immediately and see? Maybe so. If not, wait until session gets done and then compare and contrast based on the new legislation.
And I mean, that's my concern as well, because, you know, last year it was Senate Bill 180, and this year there's rumblings that they're gonna fix it. So if staff went through and tried to compare Senate Bill 180 with our current code and comp plan, and we bring back yet, 40 pages that have been vetted by the attorney and these are our findings, and then 2 weeks later, the new bill passes and it fixes everything, then what did we accomplish?
Yeah, but I think that's the same argument we're gonna have every legislative session.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that, we're gonna have that same argument holds true every year this time.
Right.
So, I mean,
Now, one more.
the only thing I can say is work on it as everything stands right now, and if it's subject to, at the end of this legislative section, everything's fixed, and we don't have issues, then all that stuff goes away, but it may very well be that the shortcomings, if any, that you find after the legislative session closes, you'll be able to say, well, there's this thing fixed and this thing fixed, but there's only 2 or 3 things we have to fix, because we've already done the research on the rest of it. So it seems to me, and this is just me, but it seems to me like the direction should be figure out where we're non-compliant, put a report together for that as time allows. And if it's incomplete at the next planning commission meeting, then at least we're moving forward with our attempts in compliance. And we'll be able to demonstrate that. If there ever were something that came up, that's lawsuits or whatever, we can say, we are actively working to correct these problems here. Just look at our commission meeting, we're talking about them every time. So, that's my thoughts on it, is let's go ahead and work on it, so we can
And-
have something to talk about.
And real quick, procedurally, you said you guys, your department has already created something that lays out the path forward for anybody that brings applications in so they can see exactly what needs to happen. And that kind of falls back to compliance with what Matt was talking about on one side of his discussion.
So we've always had something tangible that did just that, and it's Senate Bill 1080. When Senate Bill 1080 was adopted and became effective October 1, we did prepare a more easily digestible document that says if you're going to apply for this, these are the steps it's going to go through, this is your timeline, and this is your application cost. So we do have that now. And it's producible. I mean, it's on a drive, and we can get to it and print it and so on and so forth.
But that's one piece of the puzzle. Matt's saying.
Is one piece of
There's
the
a bunch
puzzle.
in the puzzle that needs to be addressed. You guys are saying, this is one of the pieces of puzzles that we got in the right place now.
Right, and that's one of that was the easy one because it did not require any sort of codification. It was just this needs to be available to the public. So there was no resolution and no ordinance that backed it. There's three pieces of legislation last year that really will make your hair stand up if you're a planner, and it's Senate Bill 180, which no action is action, essentially. Don't do anything. There's Senate Bill 784, which is subdivision plats have to be an administrative process and go, review committees, so on and so forth, but one person has the ability to adopt or approve, sign the plat. And then there's Senate Bill 1080, which is what changed all the timelines, and you have to identify what the process is in writing and make it producible. And so we've done two, essentially. We've addressed 180 by not doing anything and not changing our code and not taking a chance on more restrictive language. We've addressed 1080 by creating a producible document, and we've addressed 784 by passing a resolution that dedicated the county administrator as the plat approval liaison for Putnam County. And so
But that was done, we haven't updated our code.
well, it's a resolution, it's not an ordinance.
So moving forward, I mean, is that something, staff can put something together and run it past the county attorney to say,
Yeah, I mean, just tell us what you guys want us to address and give us a timeline that can be reasonable so that staff can review and put together a report and present it to the attorney and get feedback and so on and so forth. I mean, and keep in mind, right, Senate Bill 1080 tells us we got 30 days to determine on a lot split what we can do. And we can't let that lot split sit on our desk while we're looking at, are we compliant with Senate Bill 784 or whatever the case may be. I mean, I'm not trying to negate what Commissioner Williams is saying. I think it is important too that we comply with state law, right? But it's a rock and a hard place.
right? No, I got it. You guys definitely could use more staff. There's always,
Can you say that a little louder into the
I
microphone,
don't want
please?
to say it too loud because I don't want to have rocks. I don't want to be stoned in the parking lot, but no, we appreciate the work you guys do. I know you guys, every time I come in the office over there, you guys are working on stuff. So we know that you're not just sitting over there eating donuts and drinking coffee. But at the same time, this board has a certain job to do, and, we need the tools to do it with. So if one of the board members identifies a deficiency, although all the planning and stuff that you guys do is important on a production level, it's also important that we have the tools to steer the ship the way we see fit, so.
Well, we also
I'm-
want to be compliant
Well, and
with state code.
that's part of what we do. So, we're not trying to cram this in and say have it done by the next commission meeting, but it would be nice if we could show some direction between now and then where we are getting something looked at, where we can say, you know, yes, we've been working, we've been able to look at a few of these things, here's some of the stuff that we know we're in compliance with, and who knows, you guys may run across some stuff that you feel you aren't in compliance with, and which would, you would need to make adjustments, whether it be policy-wise or inter-office-wise, or however you guys do things. So this direction may be helping y'all out as much as it's helping us out.
Sure, I mean, my request is, you know, what does this commission or any member of this commission think that we're not in compliance with? What should we be looking at?
I think it was 177 and 1080 were the two things that I've heard
Well,
Matt bring up the most. Like, look for compliance between 177 and 1080 to start. I mean, that seems like the starting point.
so, and just to clarify, and I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to play the semantics game, but I don't believe 177 is what we want to look at. 177 is the chapter of statutes that's already effective. I think it's, and I'm putting words in mouth, so please correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong, but it's Senate Bill 784.
Or maybe it's 70. I was going off of.
No,
Matt
so
did a lot
so
more
I,
work on this than I have.
I didn't have the handout that I gave everybody as a starting point, but I think if you could look in that first paragraph, and I can't pull it up, I can't get to the internets right now. But if you look in there, it addressed the changes in 177, 1080, and I'm shooting from the hip, 7 something. And it was it was an honest effort to assist, because I know that you all are very limited in staff. The municipalities that have already done this have a lot more, I mean exponentially more, planners, liaisons, all kinds of people. So that was just an effort for me to try to assist. I will try to find some time as well. It's not that difficult, I don't believe, where I can load it in. Again, AI is a great thing. Try to find some of that. But what I brought was what other folks have done that addressed all of the pertinent, including, not necessarily in this group, it kind of put it together so that because the building permits are also in Senate Bill 1080, I think, and the triggers for that. So conditional plats triggers, which are design plats, conditional plats, whatever term you use, trigger certain other items. What it does is it make sure that we're compliant with 4 or 5 different statutes to the best of other people's knowledge, and helps move it forward. And my intent was that you all, the 2 or 3 staff members or 4, I don't even know, didn't have to do all the heavy lifting. It was more of a guide. It kind of pointed out some of the stuff that works and some of the text changes and definitions. So I will try to find some points. I didn't want this to be argumentative or combative or whatever. I was honestly trying to, hey, this is what other people are doing. Here's a good starting point. That was my intent. But I will try to also assist where we might have some issues.
May need to take smaller bites too, because you had a lot of info in that last go-round.
But they're all tied together because the platting and that stuff triggers the next piece, which triggers the next piece, which then the stick was Senate Bill 1080. You have this long to do this, but you have longer to do it on the front end, basically. But once you hit that certain thing, then building permits have to go out, approvals have to go out. Basically, if you can deem it non-effective as a submittal or a plat or all this, the municipality's time doesn't start. But if you don't comply with all this stuff and don't do it right, once that time starts, then you've got to start throwing stuff out the door. So
Haven't been on the other side of the counter. They're good at deeming stuff non-effective yet. But I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, maybe make a little more take smaller bites of this thing. Pick out specifics about where we're not compliant, if we can find it, and move forward with that. Do we have any more old business? Nope. Any new business?
I have one.
All right.
Nancy Brown is now the senior planning coordinator, which is the managerial position for the planning and zoning department.
What?
It's been effective for,
Congratulations.
what, a month? 2 months now. So we haven't seen you
Nice.
guys since then, but
Congratulations, no
Congrats.
doubt.
To both of you.
thanks.
No more new business. How about approval of the minutes from December the 10th? Anybody bother to look at them yet?
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting of December 10th, 2025.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, before you adjourn, I just want to make sure, does staff have any sort of direction on a report or anything to prepare to bring back?
I would think we would like you guys to review the compliance with, which one you want, 1080 and 177 and 784, I guess is the three that have been in the hot topic here.
And
See where
just-
you guys feel like you stand with that, maybe.
And just to clarify too, it was Senate Bill 784 amended statute chapter 177. So I don't think,
Okay, you're saying that's two different, okay.
so if I'm understanding, it's Senate Bill 784, are we in compliance with that? And Senate Bill 1080, are we in compliance with that?
Correct. Sounds like a starting point.
And can we get some gracious timeline on that? Next meeting,
I mean,
following?
honestly, I feel like that's gonna be an ongoing thing, you know, I feel like that should be something that's happening behind the scenes anyway, is verifying compliance with statute, so, I mean, I'm not saying you guys have to have it prepared before the next statement, or the next, meeting, but it seems like as long as we've got an update, at the next meeting, and
Status report
work
next.
towards completion, yeah.
So I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but is there a time frame where the state requires us to be in compliance with the new
Yes, sir, we've
code?
passed those timeframes. We have passed the time.
Oh, we've already passed the time frame. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, 784 was effective July 1, and 1080 was effective October 1. And we passed our resolution for the Senate, to address Senate bill in August. And we had the producible chart created. That'd be a Michael or Ethan question. I want to say it was maybe November, early December, something like that. But we'll come back through them and see if we're missing anything.
Works for me. Anything else? We all good? All right, call it at 5:08.